In this tutorial, we'll be focusing on the Flash SDK. The Flash SDK allows you to develop your own SWF files using Adobe Flash authoring tools, so you can develop a Flash file, a SWF file, that can actually use some of the resources that exist in the studio. So you can have a Flash file that presents videos, resources, and even text that are all configurable from within the studio. So you don't have to recompile your Swift every time you want to change a resource. So we'll cover the different aspects of how to embed a SWF file in the player and the studio. And also we'll show you some examples, some pre-compiled SWF files and source code that we have made available to you. So we'll first review some of the samples that we made available to you. So let's go ahead and click on navigation and click on editors. And now that the editors is selected, click on the import scene button right here. And on this directory tree here, we have a lot of different samples, and a lot of these samples we actually developed using the compatible SDK library that we're going to present in a second. So first let's review a few. So we'll go to click on the directory and review this directory 1. And the directory 1 is kind of like a building directory, and obviously if you're going to use this, you're going to want to change the text, the names, and the logo, and even the colors. And you can also download the source code. So if you click on this button right here, you can actually download the complete zip file that has all the source code, so you can open this FLA file in Adobe Flash and you can completely modify the implementation of this, and we'll cover this in a second. But first let's go ahead and review the different fields that are modifiable and editable. So we'll go ahead and click on OK to import this scene into our studio. So now we have this scene right here, the directory 1. Go ahead and select it and go ahead and make some more room here. And this is a scene right now that we're looking at. And notice if I go to my outline, I have the resource right here. So I'll go ahead and select the resource, which is this SWF file. And you can see that right now it's selected with these object handles all around. And we've put the constraints, so it always puts this Swift at full size. Now before we start covering the different properties of this Swift file, I want to just demonstrate what happens when you use just a regular Swift file, a Swift file that was not specifically developed to our API. So if I switch to resources and for example use this BG58 Swift file and I drag it over and I look up at the properties, you see the only property I have is the maintain aspect ratio. That's the only property I have because this SWF file was not developed to our specification. It was not developed to our interface. It's just a good old SWF file that was developed using Adobe Flash. Now I'll go ahead and delete this. Now you'll see what happens when I select this SWF file. Go ahead and switch to my outline again and click on the resource. And notice that because this SWF file was developed to our specification, on the Swift properties now I have a lot more properties. I have the maintain aspect ratio just like before, but now I've exposed a lot more stuff that I can do with this Swift file because again it was developed to our specifications. So for example, I have a logo, I have a footer, I have entries, and all this information can be modifiable. Now you don't have to recompile the Swift using Adobe Flash in order for you to modify the text. I can just click on entries for example, and I can go ahead and switch to the second entry, and I can delete it and put some other text and click on enter, and you can see right here that the text automatically gets edited. And this is also true for resources. So if I go ahead and click on the logo mercantile and I'll go ahead and switch back to my resources, and let's go ahead and use this logo Swift and drag it over here, you'll notice that the logo is going to change and now it has a completely different logo. This is a transparent SWF file. So you can modify any information that you want within the guidelines of your developed Swift. So if you had more information that could be editable, this will all be presented over here under the Flash properties, and you can modify this. And again, this is quite powerful because it means that you can have SWF files that are completely editable from within the studio for both text, resources, videos, not having to compile a Swift every time you want to modify some text within your own developed SWF file. Now let's go ahead and cover another example so you can kind of compare and contrast. So we'll go ahead and go back to the import scenes. So let's go ahead and review some of the pre-made SWF and FLA source code files that we made available to you. So under the directory, we have different ones. We have the one that you saw earlier, but this one actually moves from one item to the next and shows an image on the bottom. We have another one right here, directory 3. That's a little bit different. You can this again build a directory that you can modify, and we'll go ahead and import this because I want to actually show you something in this one. So I'll click on OK to import it, and now if I switch to directory 3 to select it and make a little bit more room here, and I'll go ahead and select the SWF file and look at the properties, and notice that this one also has its own properties that are all defined within the creation of this SWF file. But notice it has this button right here, edit XML. This is pretty cool because if you click on it, it has a big XML with all the items, all the categories and the text, and so you can modify this and you can develop your own FLA and SWF file that has that actually reads an XML, and the XML is again modifiable from within the studio, so you never have to get out of your comfort zone, out of your studio. You can do everything in the studio, modify all the categories and text and entries, and all that could be modified here in this XML text editor. So again, if we cancel out of this, you see that we can change different things. We can change the font size, for example, to 34, make it a lot larger, and change the entry size for the regular text, make that 40. And you see all that is completely modifiable because that's how this Flash was developed. It was developed to be compatible with our studio and with our player. And let's go ahead and review a few more. Go back to the import scene, go to generic. And another one I want to show is flying images. This one is also modifiable. You can change all the text, all the images, all that could be modifiable. Again, you can download the source code and see how we did it and develop your own SWF and FLA file, or you can just import this one and kind of change all the text and images. We have a carousel 3D, that's the next one I want to cover, so I'll go ahead and select that. I'll click on OK to import this scene into my studio. So again, let's go ahead and make some more room here and select this SWF to load up its properties. And you see that there's different properties you can set here. You can set under the options, you can set autoplay. So right now the autoplay is true, so it'll continue and rotate on its own. The delay, we can reduce delay to 2 seconds, and we can set the random to true. So select a different image every single time. And again, you can download this source code and see exactly how we did it, and you can define your own properties. So if you want to add properties or remove properties, you can download the source code, read it, see how we did it, and develop your own customizable SWF file. And of course, you don't have to use the resources that we use, so I'll go ahead and click on media content, and you can see that right now there's 6 entries. So I can go ahead and add a 7th entry. I'll click on the plus sign right here to add a 7th entry, and I'll go ahead and put a gym image on the 7th entry, drag and drop for my resources, and you see it right here. There's an image of a gym. Hopefully it'll be selected soon so we can see it. Just going to rotate to it. It's right here. And if I don't like any of the other images, no problem. I'll just go ahead and, let's say I want to go ahead and swap out the first image. So go ahead and select a fitness center image, drag and drop it to the first location, drop it, and you see that I went ahead and modified the first image. So again, this is something that you guys can take advantage of. You can use the component as is within your signage presentation, or you can download the source code and modify it. And of course, you can also change any of the common properties. So if we switch to common, and for example, let's say I want to change the background, go to gradient. I can completely modify the background, do it any way I'd like, double clicking it to change the color. Go ahead and select maybe a darker color. So you can see, again, completely modifiable. Use the common properties or use the specific properties that are defined within the FLA file. So just let's go ahead and just review a couple more. So I'll go back to my import scene button, click on that, and now we'll go ahead and review a couple. They're under the generic. So we'll talk about, let's go ahead and switch to the depth gallery. That's another cool component that you guys can use. You can again import it directly and swap out the images and swap out some of the properties and text, you'll see that it flips over and there's text that displays right here, so you can modify the text, and if you remove the text it's not going to flip over. So you can play around with this one, or you can also download the source code and see how we developed it. Another one that we're going to talk about is the photo shuffle. With the photo shuffle, go ahead and select it. This is pretty cool. It kind of scatters images all over the desktop, and you can see how we modified it. So I'll go ahead and select it, and go ahead and again make some more room here. And if we select the photo shuffle and go to the properties, you can again see the different options on the galleries. You can change all the resources, you can change the text, you can change the title, you can add more images. If you want, you can remove images. You can change the images into videos or any other animated SWIFTs. And on the options, you can again change different things. For example, I can enable the background image. I'll go ahead and set that to true. And now I have the default background image. Or I can set this to false. And instead I can use my own image. I can, as you can see here, I have a video playing in the background as an image. So very flexible, and you can download the source code, see how we did this, or use the component as is. Now if you're wondering how did we change the background image, well, that's pretty easy. This is a scene. Of course you can put any item within a scene. So if I switch to my outline, go ahead and reduce the size of this SWF file, so I'll go ahead and make it smaller, and now I'll select my background. You see that this background is basically just a regular video. So if I play it, you'll see that this video is moving. It's a moving video that's all the way in the back. Of course I can go ahead and make it a little bit smaller so you guys can see it better. Well, right now it's actually anchored, so I'll go ahead and remove the anchors for my background video, and now I'll go ahead and resize it. So this is basically just a video that's laid on the bottom of my SWF file. So that's how we did that. And for those of you that really want to dive in and develop your own FLA and SWF files, let's go ahead and show you the source code. So we'll go ahead and go back to the import scenes, and we'll go ahead and select select the flying images and click on get source code. Now this opens up a web browser, and in the web browser it's going to download the source code for us, flying images, which is a zip file. And let's go ahead and unzip this file just to see what's in there. So here's the source code for the picture flying. Double click on that, and you see there's a whole bunch of files here. The file that you really are going to read and mess around with is going to be the FLA file, which is this resource right here. And the second file that you should pay attention to is the pictureflying.as. So if you go ahead and open this file, you can see that most of the source code for this exists right here. And if you're a developer, you can read this, and right here on the get property definition, you can see where we define all the properties that are modifiable. So you can see the different header, the text list, all the different files that you can, the images or resources you can swap over. These are all defined right here. So again, in this case, in the case of the picture flying, this is the main file that you're going to pay attention to, and of course the FLA, which is the Flash source file. So I just want you to understand that most of these files you really don't have to pay any attention to. They're there just for the compiler, but you don't have to open them or mess with them or even understand them, like the iChild player, framework, resource service, broker. All these files you don't need to worry about. Even this text item, you don't have to worry about this. So if you want to play around with picture flying, you just need to open this FLA and this ActionScript file. These two files you can read the source code, mess around with, change settings, recompile, and upload the final output, which is going to be the pictureflying.swift, onto the studio, and play around with the properties and see if it behaves the way you expect it. So you should definitely browse around our directory tree, and anytime you see a file that has a get source code, you'll pretty much know that this is a file that was compiled in Flash CS3 to be compatible with our system. There's different ones that we continue and add to the system, so you should add yourself to Twitter, because we update all these on Twitter. So every time we update a new compatible file, we'll do a tweet, so you can go and come around and kind of mess with it and play with it. If you select the other ones, like for example, I'm selecting Sunny right now, you'll see there is no source code available. So this is just a scene that you can import, but it doesn't have any source code that's associated with it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.